Bueno, pues bienvenidos.
So, welcome back again to this doctor seminar devoted to the promotion of the peace, values, and integration. Today, we have Stefano Dominioni, the Executive Secretary of the Enlarged Partial Agreement of Cultural Roots of the Council of Europe and Director of the European Institute of Cultural Roots. I am not going to read out his biography because you have it in the documentation that we have handed out. I am just going to say that I'm extremely pleased to say that he has been committed to this project in an active way for many years. Last month, I was in the Latrine Academy in Dordogne, in France, in one of the cultural roots of the European Union, with the 48 roots, and we worked on visibility, cooperation, and sustainability. That was the agenda for the future for the roots. And Stefano Dominioni has brought together all the roots, because the roots used to work separately in the past. But before giving him the floor, this is the reason why we gave the award to this institution on the 9th of May in 2019. That was the 13th edition of the Carlos V Award, and the jury decided to award the Carlos V Prize based on the promotion of dialogue and values of all the countries in the European Union for cooperation, research and development, memory, history of the European heritage, cultural practices and arts, and cultural tourism. We also valued the image and the position of the cultural roots when seen from outside of Europe. It is a project where several stakeholders participate. This is quite special. Rosa was saying this is the first time the award is given to an initiative, to an institution. So that is something that gets us closer to the civil society. In this project, we have several stakeholders, governments, countries, international institutions, regions, municipalities, civil society organizations, museums, associations, foundations, universities, businesses, and thousands of citizens, especially the youth and other entities that showcase the richness of that cultural value. So we are proud of this award. So thank you, Stefano, for being here with us today. I know you have a busy agenda, and you are accompanied by another essential person, Eladio. And now, Stefano, you have the floor.
Muy buenos días. En primer lugar,
good morning. I'd like to thank the General Director of Foreign Action of the Junta de Extremadura, the Director of the European and Ibero-American Academy of Yuste Foundation, the Vice Rector of University Extension of the University of Extremadura, and the Jean Monnet Professor and Vice President of Royal European Academy of Doctors, and Miguel Ángel Martín Ramos, and Mr. Correas, and Gabo, and Eladio Fernández Galeano from the Council of Europe.
Much more comfortable for me, but I wanted to say a few words in Spanish to say how grateful we are for this award. and to thank the region of Extremadura, all the representatives, but also the academics that are here today, the members of the jury and the young doctoral students, the future of academia across Europe, for being here today and for recognizing the cultural roots of the Council of Europe as an initiative worth awarding the Carlos V European Prize, given the very prestigious awardees that have been awarded in the past and currently. So we are, as Council of Europe, very, very grateful for this award. It really brings a lot of recognition to this program. And I'm very also grateful that the Fundación the Yuste has linked this award with academic research and with the work of young Europeans. This makes it very concrete, and it opens a variety of interesting activities for the future. So I would like to, first of all, mention the Carlos V Prize. It has mentioned already that this is the first time the Foundation awards this prize to a program. And I think this is very, very important to underline Europeans' cultural and historic heritage. A work, by the way, that was established in the 80s, and it is worth mentioning that the first cultural route of the Council of Europe certified was a very prestigious culture route that crosses Spain and that it's worldwide recognized, the Santiago de Compostela pilgrim routes. And we are also very, very grateful that this award was awarded in 2019 by His Majesty the King of Spain here in Yuste, and it was in the presence of our Secretary General, Mr. Torbjörn Jagland, at the time, with also the representative of the Cultural Roots Program. You might remember that all the delegates for the over 40 routes at the time came to Yuste to also participate in the award in recognition that the Council of Europe is a facilitator for this program, but as it has been said, it is really a program that is really owned and run by a network of associations very much linked to European civil society. So the award is first and foremost an award that is the recognition of the work of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe. I am giving you an overview and an opening speech to put things in context. I know the jury and the students have been working on a number of different researches in the field of heritage and culture at European level, and I'm very grateful for this. And because it recognizes the importance that the Council of Europe, as an institution, has been promoting since its establishment in 1949. And it's important to recall that the organization I represent was established really after the very end of the Second World War to ensure political reconstruction of Europe based on a set of fundamental values. Of course, there was the reconstruction of the destruction of Europe at the time, but it was also so important to reconstruct the moral fabric of our continent, the European values that bring us together. So, as you know, the Council of Europe is based in Strasbourg, and it's the continent leading human rights organization. There is nothing like the Council of Europe, Europe-wide, and I would say worldwide, in the sense that it really focuses on human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. And it was one of the first international organizations that opened its doors to the countries of Central and Eastern Europe after the fall of the Berlin Wall. It has today 46 member states, including all the member states of the European Union. It's worth mentioning that last year the Russian Federation was expelled by the Council of Europe. All the Council of Europe member states have signed up to the European Convention on Human Rights, a treaty designed to protect human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, creating a legal space for over 700 million Europeans. And that is worth remembering. We are part of a European community of values, but also of a legal certainty, and that is important. The Council of Europe as an institution advocates freedom of expression and of the media, freedom of assembly, equality, and the protection of minorities. It helps member states to fight corruption and terrorism and undertakes necessary judicial reforms. Promotes human rights through a variety of international conventions. We are convention-based organizations, such as the Convention on the Prevention of Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, and the Convention on Cybercrime. It monitors member states' progress in these areas and makes recommendations to member states through independent monitoring mechanisms. In addition to the European Court of Human Rights, I would like to recall for young Europeans, the Council of Europe consists of several working institutions, such as the Committee of Ministers, which is made up of the member states' ministers and their representatives, and is its main decision-making body. The Parliamentary Assembly consists of members of parliament from the 46 member states and provides a democratic forum for debate. The Human Rights Commissioner independently addresses and brings attentions to human rights violations, and the Congress of Legal and Regional Authorities is responsible for strengthening local and regional democracy across our member states. We work, of course, in close partnership with the European Union, but we have a different set of working methods and mission, and we cooperate with the United Nations and other international organizations in the neighborhood, also in the Mediterranean and worldwide. Speaking about culture and cultural heritage, this is what brings us together in Yuste today. Ever since it was founded, the Council of Europe was very aware of the importance of cultural heritage of its member states. And European cultural heritage has been understood as a crucial element to promoting fundamental values and achieving greater unity among Europeans. Culture is one of the foundations of our European way of life and European history. So this key awareness of culture has been always going hand in hand with the protection of also diversity and of the arts, of cultural heritage, as an essential tool for providing openness of our populations, and where open and active processes and practices of culture combined help us to deal with the complexities of our living together. And the cultural dimension has been essential, an essential component of the Council of Europe mandate, from convention-based standard setting to monitoring mechanisms across its 46 member states. As we said, the first Council of Europe treaty following the European Convention of Human Rights was indeed a cultural treaty. The European Cultural Convention, the Council of Europe, was the first international organization across Europe to establish some legal basis to understand that we have a shared European culture, and that it dates back to 1954. And reflecting on the Council of Europe commitment to encouraging member states to cooperate through cultural means, the European Cultural Conventions attest the ambition to develop a better understanding between the citizens of Europe and the reciprocal appreciation of our cultural diversity. So it is about cultural diversity, respecting our differences, but also finding what really unites us, what makes us all Europeans. And since then, the Council of Europe has developed a wide range of conventions, guidelines, and tools regarding cultural heritage and its protection. Whether it is the European Convention for the Protection of Architectural Heritage, the Granada Convention of 1985, to the Convention for the Protection of the Archaeological Heritage, the Valletta Convention of 1992, or more recently, the Council of Europe Convention on Offenses relating to Cultural Property, the Nicosia Convention of 2017. All these legal texts provide a framework for cooperation between member states in the field of cultural heritage protection, enhancement, and education at both national and European level. They all demonstrate the commitment of the signatories to ensure the transmission of these values enshrined in these legal binding documents for the future generations of Europe. And gradually, cultural heritage has become a key element in helping address challenges at the European level, and its accessibility has progressively evolved into an intrinsic aspect of every European's quality of life. This is an important message. Our European quality of life resides very much in our access to our cultural heritage, which is such a wonderful aspect of everyday life for all Europeans. And access to cultural heritage is now perceived, and rightly so, as a vehicle for an open and diverse cultural space. And a safe and sustainable environment as a basis for our democratic societies, and also as a driver for social transformation. Cultural heritage and development are very much linked. And the Council of Europe launched a convention for exactly making a link between the values of cultural heritage and society, and an active participation of our citizens in cultural life, also known as the Faro Convention of 2005, advocating a broader vision and its relationship with communities and society, highlighting its significant role, culture as a dimension for social cohesion. And this will all make sense in a few minutes when I come to cultural roots, but this is important for me to set the framework to make you understand where cultural roots of the Council of Europe fit in the overarching mission of the Council of Europe. And all these conventions have also been serving a very concrete and actual role in a number of crises that Europe has been facing ever since. And the current situation in Ukraine, to bring us back to the tragic situation that one of the member states of the Council of Europe, Ukraine, is facing today because of the war and the unjustified and unprovoked attack by the Russian Federation to Ukraine. Here in Ukraine, cultural heritage has been, as you know, deliberately targeted and looted. Artifacts may be illegally exported, and this brings a renewed interest in protecting a cultural heritage, which is a fundamental mission of Europe and the Council of Europe. And this brings relevance to one of the recent conventions of the Council of Europe. I mentioned the Nicosia Conventions on the offenses related to cultural property, in responses to the offenses in post-conflict and in conflict situation, is the only legally binding international treaty aiming at combating such crimes by strengthening criminal justice responses and at the same time fostering international cooperation. By emphasizing its potential for intercultural dialogue and also both economic and social development, cultural heritage becomes a key for society as a whole, for all our regions, for all our countries. And the right to cultural heritage is then perceived as a right inherent to participation in cultural right. And there are a number of other conventions, such as the European Convention for Landscape, which represent a significant step in the promotion of a wider definition of European heritage that touches also the built environment and as well the landscape and our countrysides, reflecting our culture. That is the essential message, that the landscape is also very much part of our culture or who we are, and becomes an essential element of our history and also of our diversity. So the notion of heritage, cultural heritage, has been expanding and developing over the years, increasingly with the recognition that it has a role in making sure that we develop in a sustainable, peaceful and resilient way our societies, and it's strongly reflected in the work of the Council of Europe. Many are the other several activities of the Council of Europe in the field of culture, but now I would like to focus for a few minutes on the Cultural Roots program, because this is what brings us all together. But the Cultural Roots program is born on the basis of this legal framework, on the history of the Council of Europe, and on the work that was done both at standard setting level, legal work, and also in the field of cooperation. I mentioned the Declaration of 1987 as the beginning of the work in the field of cultural roots, with the Declaration in Santiago, and this was very much linked to understanding and underlying the fundamental principles of the Council of Europe. One of which is participation. One of which is the sharing of our cultural heritage, and also one of which is bringing together our different experiences and our different definitions as well as of culture. So the Cultural Roots of the Council of Europe is both a mission in terms of values, and I hope I have underlined a number of them, but is also a very concrete tool in the hands of civil society, of our regions, of our local authorities, and that is the beauty of the program. That is what makes it so unique. It is not a program driven neither by an international organization, although we supervise its implementation, nor by any of our member states, as other international programs that see a very strong involvement of our central authority. Is very much a bottom-up program where local authorities, civil society, the regions, public authorities at local level, and of course all our cultural heritage sites participate collectively. And the beauty of the program is that this is at European level. It's not a single initiative of a region, but every single member of these networks participates with his own cultural heritage, with its own resources, with a objective to reflect our cultural heritage in a very transnational dimension, bringing together very different realities, and it is worth recalling that the geography of the Council of Europe is very wide. It encompasses almost all the European continent. It did encompass all the European continent up until last year, but still 46 member states is a very large basin of cultural heritage and cultural traditions that can be tapped into by these transnational networks. So, as you know, these are networks that are based on itineraries or a series of itineraries based on a historic route, a cultural concept, or a figure or phenomenon of European importance that is significant for the understanding of our European history and our European European values. So the definition infers a great variety of themes, from architecture to landscape, from religious heritage to tangible and intangible heritage, to landscape, major figures of European art, music, and literatures. And of course, we are in the home of Carlos V, so you know very, very well what I'm referring to. It is about history, it's about our past, it's about creating a narrative that help us understand our history in a European perspective. There are different typologies of cultural roots. I'm giving you a little bit the academic definitions here that you might be familiar with. Some are linear. They're based on a historic pilgrimage path, for example. Some are communication corridors. Some are trade. Areas linked by a given theme or activity or a European historic figure. But no matter whether they are linear, territorial, or reticular, each route is structured around a transnational network, bringing together under the same roof several stakeholders coming from the public as well as from the private sector. The basic requirement is at least 3 member states of the Council of Europe, but of course, I would say the majority of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe go well beyond this minimum requirement. As it was mentioned by Miguel Angel, the cultural roots include a variety of actors, and this is the strength of these networks. Municipalities, local authorities, regional authorities, universities, foundations, museums, as well as very much actors of the civil society, and as well as the private sector. And this mix between public and private is also a winning element for this type of networks that have been witnessing an increasingly interest and success over the last decades. And of course, the award in 2019 was awarded to the Council of Europe as the organization that oversees the certification of these cultural routes. And there is an entity that oversees all this. It has quite a difficult name to retain, but is an enlarged partial agreement on cultural routes. This is a technical word that basically means a group of member states of the Council of Europe. Spain was among the founding members of this agreement, decides to pull together resources to promote a particular topic. And this was established as an independent standalone institution in 2010. The representatives of this large partial agreement are governments, member states' governments, the ministers of culture and their representatives, sometimes the ministers of tourism, and the ministers of foreign affairs. There are two institutional bodies that look after this program, the certification, the evaluation of the routes, as well as providing visibility and also contacts at national and European level. And of course, we very much have good relations with a number of international organizations. The European Union is one of them, but I think it's important to mention UNESCO and the World Tourism Organizations as also partners of our program. It's a program that is very much liked by international organizations. They see the added value of what the Council of Europe does, and we cooperate with them in a variety of ways. The European Parliament, the closest of the European institutions close to the citizens, have acknowledged the importance of cultural roots of the Council of Europe in a variety of occasions, with reports, with recommendations to the European Commission to promote this concept, and some a number of our cultural roots, as a matter of fact, are working with the European Commission and the European Union with European Union funding quite successfully. But what is important for me to mention is that behind all this, there is the work of the networks, the work of the cultural roots, and a process of certification. This is the added value recognized Europe-wide and beyond. The fact that the Council of Europe discerns a label to roots that maintain a number of criteria that are regularly evaluated and regularly studied by independent expert report. There is a monitoring mechanism that is imposed upon the cultural roots in order to maintain the label of quality and the recognition that the Council of Europe gives to them. And very briefly, I mentioned the three member states of the Council of Europe that needs to be associated, the minimum requirement, but also each cultural route is not to be defined as a project. It is actually an active network on the ground, implementing activities through its network members throughout Europe in a variety of fields. Cultural heritage is one, but also youth exchanges and youth activities is another. Cultural tourism, sustainable cultural routes, sustainable cultural tourism is a very essential aspect, as well as scientific work. And where better than this gathering to mention the important scientific aspect of each and every cultural route. Behind a cultural route, there's always a scientific commission, a committee that guarantees the historic relevance, the scientific evidence of a theme, because I can tell you a little secret, we receive applications every year for cultural routes of the Council of Europe program, and sometimes the scientific evidence is not easily detectable right away, so we always go to the scientific work of the scientific committee, the independent expertise analyzes, and if there's a doubt that the scientific evidence is lacking, there's more work to be done, and in some cases there is no certification by the Council of Europe given to networks that are weak in terms of academic research and scientific evidence. And the last requirement that is very important for me is the for the Secretariat in terms of preparing the files is the existence of a legal basis. And I'm now speaking in front of legal expert and academics in the field of law, and it's for me so important that these networks have a legal basis. They are legal entities with abiding by the rule of law, abiding by the rules that our member states have drawn on the operations of associations of civil society. There is a guarantee that cultural routes operate democratically. They have their own governing structures, their own working methods, their own guarantees in terms of reporting and financial sustainability. So all this is guaranteed by the fact that cultural routes are legal entities, and there is there's checks and balances that are put in place. So it's a methodology that has been implemented now for over 30 years. There is a rigorous evaluation process. Cultural routes are submitted to every on a regular basis. To give you just a few more elements about the values that bring together the cultural roots, I mentioned this cross-border cooperation for us is essential. The fact that these networks promote a much wider idea of cooperation. And when assemblies, general assemblies of cultural roots are held, you see members from the different sides of different cultural roots network members coming together from different member states, and that is one of the added value so most important. The additional added value that I would like to mention is the fact that they are very close to the citizens. Cultural roots are not like sites, heritage sites that are labeled and just received a guarantee of quality for their cultural heritage value. They are living entities in the sense that they also involve very much the participation of local actors. We mentioned the aspect linked to the involvement of the local citizen, and this can be seen in a variety of activities that the cultural roots put in place. They are very close to the local level. Extremadura is a very good example of this, but also linked also to the small and medium businesses, enterprises. Sustainable cultural tourism is one of the elements that has been developing recently for the Cultural Roots program very strongly, and the contribution to the local economy and the local development is another element that I would qualify as a value of the program, because clearly the Cultural Roots of the Council of Europe, by and large, I would say, mostly cross rural areas, regions that are maybe less well known than major destinations in our throughout our countries, and this is important to foster a sense of development in the tourism sector that increases in our region, and this is the value that we attach to activities in the field also of intangible heritage. This is also linked to the culture and the heritage of our communities to create a sense of belonging. There is also an educational value of the certified roots of the Council of Europe. I mentioned the attractiveness for young people from diverse cultural, geographic, and social backgrounds. This is done regularly across the Cultural Roots of the Council of Europe. One of the activities is specifically devoted to young Europeans, and they are a very good tool for informal also education, promoting projects that are cross-border, and encouraging also comparative approaches. And many are the good practices that the Cultural Roots have been developing over the years, along for example, the route of the olive tree with youth exchanges, or the Phoenician routes. Carlos Quinto has, I would consider today's activity as one of also the contribution as to promote youth exchanges, and this has been also true for many others. Could mention the Viking routes of the route of industrial heritage, Santiago de Compostela, of course, the Via Francigena in Italy, the wine route. Just a few examples to show you how a number of cultural routes are very much active in this field. The sense of European citizenship also is important. Not all the cultural roots, this is an important aspect to mention, are let's say celebrating our wonderful cultural heritage. Some of them are also focusing on our more complex, complicated, at time difficult past. Cultural roots of the Council of Europe, among them, there are a number of networks that are remembering the history of the Second World War, for example. The European Liberation Route Europe is one of them. Atrium, with the architecture of totalitarian regimes of the 20th century, or the Iron Curtain trails. These are also part of our history, and it's important that the Council of Europe provides a space to remember and not to forget the past, and especially for young generations. And it's in a spirit of understanding, not in a spirit of at all, let's say, wanting just to remember, but also it's in a spirit of understanding and putting things into a wider context. We also have cultural roots of the Council of Europe in the field of religious heritage, which is such an important area of our European history and identity, celebrating our wonderful religious heritage, but also in some cases celebrating the difficult religious heritage that some religious communities have had to face. For example, the Huguenots and the Valdesians, they had to leave the country into exile, and this cultural route retraces their exile. So Europe is also a history of migrations, sometimes forced migrations, and that is something that the cultural roots of the Council of Europe wants to underline. Just a few numbers for you to retain. It has been mentioned 48 cultural routes that have been certified over the years. Cultural routes are recertified regularly, but also they go through a process of evaluation. In some cases, it happens also that they may lose the certification. This is a process of decertification. And at the same time, there is also a process of new applications. There's new candidates routes every year regularly. To give you an idea of the scope of the program, 48 is the number, but among these 48 cultural routes that have been certified, therefore associations, there are over 3,500 institutional network members. And it was mentioned before, these are historic heritage sites, museums, local authorities, foundations. So it is very, very diffuse across Europe. These are active networks. They participate in the activities of the cultural routes, and they are thus promoting the route at an international level. The cultural routes of the Council of Europe does not stop at the Council of Europe borders. There are network members of some of the cultural routes certified that belong to the Euro-Mediterranean area, for example, or, and this brings me to my last topic, other continents, such as the Ibero-American continent. And that is an important element to mention, in the sense that European history is a worldwide history, and there are links to European networks that stretch beyond our borders, and the work that the foundation has been doing with Ibero-America is a model for cooperation, not only within Europe, but also with the Ibero-America. And there are a number of cultural routes of the Council of Europe that have active network in Ibero-America. Carlos V is one, but Art Nouveau is also to be mentioned. Le Corbusier, European historic thermal towns, prehistoric rock art trails. And in this framework, it's worth mentioning the work we have been doing with the Yuste Foundation, but also with the with the organization of Ibero-American with the Iberian states and the work ahead. And the last words should be for the host country, because I would like to mention a few words about Spain, because the Carlos V Award was awarded in Extremadura by His Majesty the King of Spain, and so Spain also deserves a special place in this presentation. And I would like to say that Spain is a very active member of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe. There are, if my data is correct, 25 cultural routes, and probably now 26 or 27 because of the last evaluation cycle, that are active with network members in Spain, not only active, but also with their headquarters in Spain. They have the legal association based in Spain, from Carlos V to the Camino Santiago, to the European route of his thermal towns, the Viking routes, the historic gardens, European route of prehistoric rock art trails, just to mention a few. And we have also worked with the Ministry of Culture of Spain in Madrid. Spain just released an application, a mobile application, with all the cultural routes of the Council of Europe crossing Spain. It's a very interactive application. There's an interactive map. You can click on a particular route to see the geography of the route in Spain, with a different location, with information about the heritage sites, and I think that is a very important best practice that Spain has launched as a model for other member states of the Council of Europe to develop. So the program is growing and alive and well in Spain and Europe, and we're very happy to underline this this cooperation. And of course, Charles V cultural route is an excellent example of both in Spain and Europe-wide of activities, and we're very pleased to continue cooperation with you. And this is something that we have been doing now for a variety of years. The methodology is sound and it works well, but the significance is also that proposals for cultural roots come from the civil society. So that is what I would like to underline as in my final remarks, that this is something that really belongs to the civil society, belongs to the initiative of European citizens, and the Council of Europe provides for a framework of this in the way we oversee the program. So the relevance of the program is really the commitment to European values, which was a testimony of the award of the Charles V Prize. And we strive to celebrate our contribution to a more unified and mutually understanding Europe. This was underlined in the presentations with the participation of civil society. And I would like to mention to end that the European Institute of Cultural Roots, also based in Luxembourg with the Enlarged Partial Agreement, is our technical agency and has a fundamental role in providing a technical advisory mission to the Cultural Roots program. I would like to end by underlining the role of the European Institute of Cultural Roots and the network of universities. And this is the best place to mention the fact that the Cultural Roots program is assisted by a network of universities. Today, over 20 universities Europe-wide take part in developing interesting ideas and getting together to promote the study and the research in the field of cultural roots. and we launched last year an academic conference. There will be a new academic conference next year, and we'll very much like to extend the invitation to the young researchers to present at the next academic conference, and of course with the participation of the academics and the faculties. We'll be happy to include the results of this seminar into the work of the Cultural Roots University Network. So with these words, thank you again for our host. It has been a pleasure to address you here in Yuste. We're very grateful for this seminar, and we can have also some questions for the floor now that I've spoken at length, and we look forward to listening carefully to your presentations, but we'll be very happy to open now for some questions from the floor. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Stefano. Thank you very much for these words, for showing us this program. Cambio y disculpen los intérpretes. Vuelvo al español. Gracias por.
And back to Spanish. Thank you very much for showing how complex the cultural road of the Council of Europe is. There are different players from different fields, from different institutions and different countries and different regions, and it really shows how the cultural roads of the Council of Europe contribute to the process of European integration through culture, heritage and active citizenship. There is also an important thing that you pinpointed, and is the contribution to social development, with a capital S, social development, because that's where we have all the shared values, and they move towards the development at every level. I think there is a short video we're going to play, and if there are questions, we'll have a few minutes to talk to the speakers.
Pequeño ejemplo de lo que nos ofrecen los
We've seen the headquarters, and I hope that we can go to the headquarters of the Institute or to the headquarters of the Council of Europe to present the conclusions of this gathering, and I hope the students can also present themselves as alumni. Any questions? You have microphones on the table. I think everything is very clear, and we are looking forward to a coffee, actually. And probably there is one question.
Lo más difícil. Por favor, Andrea.
Vamos a intentarlo. En primer lugar,
Let me try to speak in Spanish. First of all, thank you. Thanks for your presentation and thanks for all the opportunities you are providing us with. It is very important for us. We feel grateful, and it's a great honor because there is a great responsibility behind. My question relates to what you told us about active citizenship. That's very important. How can we promote that daily? We see that citizens feel very disattached and not involved, especially in times of crisis or pandemic. Citizens kind of crumble down, and we need to keep promoting this. How should we do this without daily activities? Thank you very much. Bueno.
First, to give you an idea of the Council of Europe framework. So there are a number of activities in the Council of Europe where especially young Europeans can participate. Of course, there are activities in the field of youth. The Council of Europe has a European Youth Foundation. I will very much recommend that you look into it, because there's a lot of initiatives for young Europeans to participate actively. There is a European Heritage Days opportunity that you might be familiar with, the open doors, where local institutions, and that also is a possibility to participate and to contribute. For the cultural roots, it's very simple. Within your region, within your city, within your local where you live, there might be one or more cultural routes that are going through, and we would recommend that you contact the members of the cultures that are in your city to see how you can actively participate when they have initiatives, when they have activities. One way of doing it is with our database. We have a database on our website, the Cultural Roots of the Council of Europe website. There's a database, so you can search by region. I think in the video there was at some point a map, and there's little points, and so depending where you live, you can click and you will see whether the Carlos V Cultural Route goes through, or the European Route of Historic Gardens as a network member, and then you can approach them saying that you would like to participate in their activities. This is for, let's say, what we do as Council of Europe, and also in terms of your university, if there is a university that might want to join the University Network of Cultural Roots, this is also a way of the students can participate in our activity. So I can speak for our organization. Of course, each local authorities has a variety of ways to involve the young generations. So also that is something that you can look into it, and I'm sure there are opportunities. But each cultural route organizes activities for young Europeans. So there are opportunities among our networks to be more involved. Yeah.
No, sí. Laura, por favor. Si no.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Damos voz, por favor, al micrófono. ¿Ahora?
Is it working? Yeah.
Sí.
Okay. No, thank you very much for the presentation. I just have a very practical question regarding the last point on the academic workshop for cultural roots that I remember I had the chance to participate in 2021. It was online because it was in the middle of the pandemic, but just to know if this year will be the opportunity to participate, or if it will be next year, and if it will be in person like Miguel was proposing, it would be great, because it's a perfect opportunity to get in touch with the network of universities and with other researchers working on cultural roots. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for the question. We have been attending the national coordination of the Spanish networks in Santiago a few months ago, and we had contacts with the Santiago de Compostela University Network. There is a very developed university network of the Santiago Group of universities, and they are proposing to host the next academic conference with the assistance of the network. So that is, we don't have a date yet, but the idea is to have it in presence, possibly in Santiago, which will be also quite symbolic. And this will happen with the help of the Compostela University group, so that our young research can exchange their work with also this European dimension. And we are also going to launch a page on the website. So this is something that I forgot to mention, but I will have mentioned during the presentation, where we can put your work. So we can list all the academic papers, dissertations, and doctoral theses that have been published in the field of cultural roots. We'll give you a little visibility on our website, so that we can also, we do have copies of the work that is sent to us, but we haven't really done the step of making it visible online. So this will be done. So there will be a research page with the work that our research networks of universities provide us, but also open to young Europeans that have done research. For those that contact us, we'll be happy to, as long as it's a work on cultural roots of the Council of Europe, we'll be able to provide visibility to your work in all different languages. So we'll do that. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Stefano.
Well, thank you very much, Stefano.
Thank you very much, Stefano. We only have 1 minute left, but we will head on to the coffee break. You will be here with us till tomorrow, so if you want to talk to him or make more questions, you will have the chance to do it in a later occasion. Thank you, Stefano.